grassroots movements and underdogs. Like these are the people that we want to fight for and support and love. And like it's not like that everywhere. Even in very developed places in the world, it doesn't have that element. And I think that's why a lot of other countries look to us for that that leadership often and guidance. And it's probably very disappointing to them when they look at us from the outside and see how we act and how we treat one another, and what we're okay with, what we'll turn a blind eye to.
It feels like people would be okay with Colin Kaepernick believing what he believes, feeling the way he feels, but they would rather you stand, even if you don't. They know he doesn't support the anthem. They know that he doesn't support what it stands for, and his belief is that this anthem is false. What it's saying is not actually what we're doing. We're not living up to that. But as long as he toes the line and he does and conforms, let's call it, I would call it conform. As long as he conforms, they're happy. I mean, is that how you see it? Because that's it seems like, yeah, to your point,
Yeah.
you would rather not have him stand if he doesn't believe in that and just conform. But most people's position was, hey, look, I don't think that there was, I wonder if you even get to the point of whether you believe in, what he's saying or disagree or not. They weren't even focused on that. It was about the symbolism of, the flag, and you need to conform. And it really rubbed people the wrong way that he was not conforming. And it was almost like I always felt like it was almost like how can we as a country let him get away with that? And that just burns my ass up.
Yeah, I that makes a ton of sense. And yeah, it was like almost like a how dare you do that to me? How dare you get out of line? And but to me, like, does that really make you happy? Does that really make people happy? To 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 have somebody do something because you told them to do it instead of them doing it on their own because they genuinely feel that way. Like with a child, if you told your child you have to clean your room and you have to do this because I said so, and they did it, I feel like you're going to be so much more happy if they did something like that on their own, or they did it in their own way, and showed that this is what I feel like patriotism is, and my country being the best it can be. I don't know, like I guess I understand it, but I don't think that way. I don't feel that way. I don't want people to do something for me because like obligatory anything, because it's just like, oh, it's my
Right.
birthday, so treat me special because it's my birthday, and me telling them that, but I'd much rather
Right.
have a surprise party that I didn't know about. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know if
Right.
that analogy is
Right.
making any sense,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but
No,
that
I,
bumps
I
that bumps
get
me a
it.
lot.
What What does it say about this country and people's perspective on athletes protesting or using their platform or using their power, I would say? What does it say about this country that when that happens, people would value, many people would value the symbolism and you just conforming, rather than, you know, focusing on why do you believe that way? Why do you feel that way? And getting into the substance of the issue.
I mean, I don't know the reality. I think, or I hope anyway, that that's not the majority, but it feels like those people want to speak out more and often are given the microphone because it is, you know, not confrontational. What's the word? It is
Controversial.
controversial. Thank you. It is controversial, and so that's what we feed into as a society. The controversy and I mean, sex and violence sells, and like these big that's what sells. That's what draws eyeballs and clicks and all that stuff. So they often get that. So I don't know if that is I don't know if that is the majority or anything like that of people, but either way, yeah. I mean, it doesn't say anything good, in my opinion, because it's just like I don't know. I don't. I don't want to live under those type of rules, and often those very people are the ones who are like, well, I don't want to become this communist country or whatever. Well, I mean, communist countries often have, dictators, and like they're told what they need to do, and they're only allowed to, if there's access to internet, you can only look at these sites, and you can only, whatever. The censorship is just so high, and yeah, that's not real freedom. I mean, the like I'll go back to it, but the First Amendment in that Constitution, and people talk about the Constitution all the time and kind of throw that into this conversation, about that being the most American thing or whatever, or document or description of what we're supposed to be, and it's like even way back then, and in a time where um, slavery was okay, and not only okay, it was it was a normality, and all these things that we've overcome and changed and tried to improve on as a society. But even back then, there was that was written in as the first thing. So that must be the most important thing, and and genuinely giving power to the people, to us. I mean, that's what why America has the potential to be so great, and it frustrates me when we're not, because like grassroots movements and underdogs, like these are the people that we want to fight for and support and love, and like it's not like that everywhere. Even in very developed places in the world, it doesn't have that element, and I think that's why a lot of other countries look to us for that, that leadership often and guidance. And it's probably very disappointing to them when they look at us from the outside and see how we act and how we treat one another, and what we're okay with, what we'll turn a blind eye to. You know what I mean?